You're listening to DraftKings Network.
The John, Anik, and Kenny Florian podcast. John, Anik, and Kenny Florian.
I love them. I can't get enough of them.
Let's hear that Boston next.
Big jab there from Duffy, and Frank Mir is hurt now. Down goes Duffy, out cold. Frank Mir does it again. Rock'em sock'em robots here. Oh my goodness.
Hyperbole. They're a couple of absolutely self-involved bull artists.
Here are your hosts, John, Anik, and Kenny Florian.
Headshot, bang. Oh, done.
Oh, nothing going on as usual in this here mixed martial arts space. Great to be back in your life. And thanks for supporting the 2 shows a week. Some people don't even remember the time we were doing just 1 episode a week. It's Monday, March 27, 2023. Episode 399 of the Anik and Florian podcast, presented by DraftKings, where full episodes can be found on their YouTube channel. And if you continue to like away, they should populate for you nicely. Kempfel, a lot of self-defense and setting a base, I believe, a big part of your last 2 days. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we did a little seminar. Actually, well, two days of seminars, which was nice. And yeah, it was great. It was great, man. Had a good turnout. People learned a lot of good stuff, and it was a good time. Almost 400 episodes, huh, Johnny?
Almost 400 episodes of the podcast. And Kenny reluctantly got on board April of 2015, and I've taken up a part of his week ever since. But we thank everybody for the support. Yes, our 400th episode will be coming up later this week. Might even be an exclusive with Michael Bisping. So we'll see what comes of that. But if you do follow at Kenny Florian on Instagram, and I strongly recommend it, base in space, right? So, you know, I'm going to pick up my kids later today, and I don't think I'm going to confront anything. But just in case, you know, I got those 2 words the front of my brain stem. Have a good base, right? So even here in South Florida, if you parents in South Florida are listening, don't wear flip-flops to pick up your kids, folks. Wear sneakers and socks, right? Because otherwise you got no fucking base. Just ask your car close, right? How that worked against Jeremy Stevens. You miss big chunks of your career. Base and space. So sneakers and socks ideally, and keep some space.
100%. Don't let someone get too close to you. If you don't know who they are, don't let them in your space, man. Like I see guys all the time who, again, don't know how to fight, and they want to step to each other. They get right in front of each other's face. You can headbutt, you can punch, you can push, you can take them down, you know, a ton of things. Don't let someone in your space. Always, you know, have your legs stabilized to the floor, and that will kind of set things right from there. Yeah, thank you.
Imagine someone out there mistaking Ken Flo's kindness for weakness one time, invading his space. Fuck around and find out, you know, run up, get done up. All right. Lot coming up today. And again, thank you for being with us. We really do appreciate that. Ray Longo coming up in about a half an hour. We're also going to talk to Brendan Loughnane. Sounds like you might be wheels up to Vegas here in a few days if my research is accurate.
You are correct, as always, on your research. Thursday, I'll be heading out to Vegas, man, for PFL 1. Loughnane will be fighting Marlon Vera. So excited to talk to him.
Could you imagine if I didn't know where he was fighting, if I hadn't done that research? I don't know if we would have gotten to 400 episodes. We are going to recap Cory Sandhagen's big win over Marlon Chito Vera, talk about all that means for the 135-pound division, and we'll see what comes of all of that. And just personally, been a little bit of a crazy week. Want to thank all the fighters and all of the mixed martial arts fans for their support, and I think you know what I mean on that front. So let us get into Cory Sandhagen, and this is one of the more interesting fights for me to dissect with my guy, Kenny Florian, who, by the way, abstained from making a main event selection. So longtime Tampa Bay Ray, now Arizona Diamondback, Evan Longoria, who has made millions of dollars playing Major League Baseball. God love him. One of my dear friends now, big UFC fan. Listens to this show every week. He says, heretofore on the main event challenge, Kenny, it's okay for you to not pick a fight, but he says he needs you to pick the main event. And I think he's kind of right? Like, I do think a lot of people, they have action on the main event. And when you didn't give a pick last week, I think a lot of people felt shortchanged. What do you think about the new
Hey, that's fair. That is absolutely fair. And heretofore, I will not avoid main events. Listen, you're absolutely right. You know, those are the fights that most people are looking forward to, whether it's a fight night or pay-per-view. So I totally understand that viewpoint, and I will change that. I will change my ways. I think you're right, and I will not do that anymore.
See what we do here? Listener, however high profile Evan Longoria chimes in, we consider the request, and it affects change. I mean, it's just It's not a one-way street here on the Anik and Florian podcast. But
yes,
part of the reason why I'm excited to talk to you about a fight like this is because I know you admire both of these athletes, and there's a lot to unpack here, a lot on the Chito side, right? But Cory Sandhagen, man, and I'm going to read directly from his Instagram page. If you didn't see the fight, split decision for Cory Sandhagen over Marlon Chito Vera, and that's another conversation. 50-45, 49-46, and then 47-48 from the third and dissenting judge. And I just want to lead with this from Cory, and then I'll open it up to you, Ken Flo. Mm-hmm. This one felt like I was surfing on the clouds, all energies in me working together, moving in one direction. I was watching myself decide and could sense danger like it was heat, so awake to it all. I love this sport. Sounds like something you could have written yourself in your prime, Ken Flo. What do you make of Cory Sandhagen ending Chito's winning streak at 4?
Man, what a beautiful caption. Yeah, you know, when you have that feeling, whether you're a professional athlete, high school athlete or fighter, of course, you're in that flow, right? You're in that state of flow. And there's nothing better, especially when the pressure is on the line. I've had some terrible performances, but I've been lucky enough to have something similar to that. And man, it's a great thing. It seems like everything is just effortless. And it seemed like that was the case out there for Cory Sandhagen, who faced one of the most dangerous guys at 135 pounds in Marlon Chito Vera, a guy who is known for his finishing skills of walking you down and being dangerous every second of every fight. And he won every single round, really. You know, there were a couple rounds that were closer than others, but Sandhagen made a big-time statement with that performance. I think the way that he was moving out there was the difference. By that, I mean his footwork. Chito has good footwork, but he doesn't have necessarily dynamic footwork. And I think that really was the difference out here. And when you have the ability to switch stances, which was something I didn't feel comfortable enough. I would do it in training, but I didn't feel comfortable enough to do it during a fight. Having the ability to fight from both stances is such a weapon, and we're seeing more and more of that at high level mixed martial arts. Be it Israel Adesanya, Volkanovski, you know, it adds such an other layer and wrinkle to the game, which can be very confusing. And I don't think Marlon Chito Vera had Cory Sandhagen figured out until maybe the last 60 seconds of that fight. So I was blown away by Cory Sandhagen's performance.
So I wanted to ask you just briefly about basic guillotine defense, because certainly it seemed early on that Chito Vera was trying to jump on a guillotine. Ryan Hall, of course, whom you have cornered in the UFC, has been a huge asset to Cory Sandhagen over the last several years. He's gone east to 50-50. Ryan Hall was in his corner. You know that Chito knows his way around a guillotine, but just at a basic level, like what is Cory Sandhagen trying to do, and why was he seemingly in no danger whatsoever early on from that 1 or 1.5 submission attempts?
He's been putting in the work. He's been putting in the work, both, he said, you know, with his elbows and with his grappling skill. Being humbled by Aljamain Sterling, I think, was a big wake-up call for him. He realized he really needed to step up his grappling game. And he started working with one of the smartest guys in the game, in Ryan Hall. Ryan Hall has been one of the best instructors for probably over a decade now. He's a brilliant dude who really knows how to look at grappling in a very different way than pretty much anyone out there. And people forget, you know, everyone talks about, you know, a lot of the guys who are doing leg locks now and all that stuff. To me, it's always seemed like Ryan Hall has been anywhere from 3 to 8 years ahead of everybody else, you know, with the way that he thinks about the game, with the way that the techniques that he utilizes. And I think that work has really paid off. And Ryan, leading up to this fight, was singing Cory's praises and saying, man, he's been really putting in the work. His grappling has got so much better. And as a fighter, you always have to be looking at your performances, primarily at your weaknesses, at the mistakes that you make out there, and fixing them. And clearly, Cory Sandhagen has fixed a lot of those issues with grappling, because I think grappling was responsible for winning at least 2 of those rounds.
So we've had both of these athletes on the show. We've had Chito Vera on the show multiple times, and there's going to be some criticism, obviously, coming his way today just based upon this performance. And I don't quite understand as technically nor as deeply as you do why he didn't necessarily go for it until the 5th round. But I want to talk about rounds 1 and 2, and particularly the ground stuff. Gets back to the corner, and Jason Perillo's like, what's going on the ground? Like, you're not fighting, you're not grappling. He very much, to me, looked like he was just in training, fighting off of his back. I've never known Chito to be so inurgent on the ground.
Yeah, it was funny. Chito's good on the ground, man. He's a good Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. But, if you have the proper positioning and you know how to keep it, that is going to thwart anybody's attempt at attacking from that position. So I think Chito just didn't really know how to approach the superior positioning of Cory Sandhagen. Cory was keeping a little bit more conservative, was leaning on more on his ability to control and land short shots. And Chito just didn't have an answer for a long time. And, to get to your point about rounds 1 and 2, you see the disparity in strikes. It was 50 strikes for Sandhagen in round 1 to 9 strikes of Vera in round 1. Then 61 strikes for Sandhagen in round 2 to only 5 strikes, total strikes to Chito Vera. I don't know what it was. Now, we have seen Chito Vera in the past take a little bit to get warmed up. He definitely has that engine that takes a little bit to warm up. Then he figures you out. Then he takes you out. And Sandhagen did a great job of not really letting him into the fight and having those moments too much. And I think Sandhagen was able to build that lead. And I think he was throwing so many different looks and so many different stances at Chito Vera that I think it had Chito very, very confused. The more that you have to process as a fighter, as an athlete, the more it can slow you down. And I think it had that effect on Vera for sure.
Yeah, no, you put that well. So in terms of the wayward judges scorecard, he gave rounds 3, 4, and 5 to Marlon Chito Vera. And thank God the rightful winner won this fight, or the whole headline segment of this show would have been about the scorecards. I thought maybe you could give round 3 to Chito, but it really would seem to me that this judge was looking for good reasons to give Chito these rounds. I mean, a lot of people had this fight 5-0, and I don't know, man. Thank fucking God that, order was restored by the other 2 judges.
It's crazy. I was watching one of the lead-up videos. They had a feature on Sandhagen. ESPN had a feature on Sandhagen and Vera leading up to this fight. And Cory said it himself. He said, I have to be so good that I have to win clearly. I have to win each and every round in dominant fashion if I want to win a decision in the UFC. And he almost fell victim to this again. Now, you could argue some of those other decisions, whatever. But, I was just talking to one of my amateur fighters right now and told him the same thing. You have to be so damn good because in this sport, you never know what a judge is looking for. I thought that judge had it wrong. I do think there's a strong argument for Sandhagen winning all 5 rounds. After just watching it there, I thought he did win all 5 rounds. Some rounds closer than others. I agree with you there. And you can look at the numbers, and of course, the numbers don't always tell the story. Just because in round 3, Sandhagen landed 35 and Chito landed 19 doesn't necessarily mean that Sandhagen won that fight, because they're looking at the impact of those strikes, right? 3 jabs isn't the equivalent of 1 big cross that knocks your head back. So anyways, but yeah, it's crazy and a little scary. And we saw some other decisions that night, John, they're big time head scratchers. So yeah, the right guy won here. But to have it, and I love Chito, I'm a huge fan of his, but to have it, 3 rounds to 2 for Chito, just wasn't the whole story. And I'm sure Chito would probably say the same thing.
Cory Sandhagen, skill for skill, you can argue is the best bantamweight in the world. I mean, I think Aljamain Sterling is the best 135-pounder in the world. Certainly has that monumental head-to-head win in the series against Sandhagen. But Cory, I always think, has insight when he speaks, and talked about desire not necessarily being enough at the elite level, right? Eventually you run into somebody who wants it as badly as you do, and you don't have to be tougher than that guy. You got to be more skilled than that guy. And seemingly this dude is well-versed in all areas. Seems like people believed him to be undisputed champion type stuff from the minute really he started fighting in the UFC. And he's had some bumps, obviously, the Sterling fight, Petr Yan fight. But what are your thoughts now? Cory Sandhagen is the man moving on up at 35.
Sandhagen has made the right moves. He's training in the right way. I think he has clearly shown that he has made those improvements and wants to get back into the title picture. And also, talk about confidence as well. Who the heck is calling out the boogeyman, Merab Dvalishvili? He is one of the few guys who's asking for that fight. So I think he feels that might be a good fight for him. That is certainly a very tough fight for him. But the fact that he's calling out these really tough matchups, shows that he feels he is ready for anyone in the division. And that's what the UFC wants to hear. And having tasted, been so close to being a champion of the UFC, I think he realizes that the time is now, and he's got to fight the best out there and prove himself as the very best. And I think he can do that. I really do.
And I think his show money has got to be getting pretty good. And here he's trying to obtain the most obtainable fight right now, right? Sean O'Malley is waiting in the wings for a championship opportunity. Aljamain Sterling's going to fight Henry Cejudo. Now, if Cejudo wins, all of a sudden that opens things up for Merab. Do we really think Henry Cejudo is going to turn around in 3 months and put the belt on the line against Dvalishvili? No. So you do a main event between Sandhagen and Dvalishvili. And just a smart call out by a very smart fighter, Cory Sandhagen, whom we congratulate on a huge effort. On the other side, Marlon Chito Vera. And I told him not to take this fight, right? Because I felt like he could wait, not unlike Sean O'Malley, whom, by the way, he has a head-to-head win over. But I thought Chito, as the most decorated finisher in this division's history, and with the 4-fight winning streak, didn't necessarily need to take this fight. Now it becomes less about taking the fight or not and the performance. And I mean, this guy's got to be top 10 in terms of like UFC fan appeal, right? I mean, this guy feels like he sold out this AT&T Center in San Antonio, Texas. What are your thoughts on Chito moving forward after, with respect, a relatively listless performance here in a big spot for him?
Yeah, listen, this is going to happen, especially if you keep a pretty busy training schedule and fight schedule in the calendar year. You can't have a perfect night every night, but that's the difference between, the great fighters and the champions. Even when they have maybe a not so hot night, you have to find a way to win. I think Chito's going to be back from this. I think he's going to look at this like he always does any of his losses and look for ways to improve. It was tough to say, was this a case of Sandhagen confusing him and throwing so much at him that was shutting him down? Or did Chito have an off night? I don't know. I mean, clearly Sandhagen looked like he was in that flow state, moving extremely well. But I think Chito needs to go back, make his footwork a little bit more dynamic, and get off to a faster start. This is something that has plagued Chito, and luckily, because Chito is such a potent striker and such a potent finisher, he has found a way to get it done. But we can go back to the Jose Aldo fight and some other fights where you see him taking a little bit to get going. Even the Dominic Cruz fight, he was losing that fight. Then, of course, found his rhythm, got that unbelievable knockout. So I think Chito will learn from this, as he always does. He'll be back better. Still one of the best bantamweights in the world. Still a huge name in the sport. Just accomplishing that alone is huge for this kid. I expect him to be back better, smarter, and more dangerous.
Cory Sandhagen outstruck Marlon Chito Vera 187-73, and yet one judge thought that Marlon Chito Vera won that fight. So in terms of Cory Sandhagen, Marlon Chito Vera real quickly has called out Petr Yan. Yan, of course, has lost 3 of 4, but that fight seemingly would make some sense.
I like that. I mean, geez, Yan, he's on this losing streak. He's facing all these row of killers. That's a very interesting fight. Way more pressure on Yan than there is on Chito. Sign me up. I mean, Fight Night, make that as Fight Night main event. That is fire right there. I like that.
And real quickly, I probably should have texted Cruzy about this before bringing it to the airwaves, but in my social media scrollings, I believe Cody Garbrandt maybe has been offered the Dominic Cruz rematch for July, if I'm not mistaken.
Wow.
Yeah. I don't know. I don't think Garbrandt is ranked.
Yeah.
Dominic Cruz is, and even if some naysayers don't want to believe it, Cruz still is trying to chase down a world title. Otherwise, he's going to hang him up. So
that's interesting.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I wouldn't be surprised if Cruz tries to get that Petr Yan fight, but perhaps Chito will have the inside lane on that. Cory Sandhagen, really quick fight against Aljamain Sterling at UFC 250. A lot of people felt shortchanged by that fight, given the build-up to it. Do you know who you're going to pick, Aljamain Sterling, Henry Cejudo, coming up May 6th? Do you know right now? I don't want to know. I don't want to know. I have
not done my tape study yet, so no, I do not. And just off the top of my head, thinking about their styles, I really do not know. I think it's a fascinating matchup, very interesting matchup. I think in a lot of ways, Aljo picked perhaps the toughest matchup out there, out of all the guys. I think that was probably the toughest matchup.
So how would you handicap what I'm getting at as a rematch between Aljo and Cory Sandhagen? Because knowing you the way I do, and I hate to put you on the fucking spot, but I feel like you're going to pick Sandhagen against any 35er in his next fight. I just feel like based upon the mental and the physical and everything else.
He's coming into his own, man, and I'm a big fan of what he's doing, his approach, and I don't think there's a lot of guys that would like to face Sandhagen, and I don't think he's an easy fight for anybody, and I think he's capable of beating anyone in the world at that weight class, no doubt.
He reminds me a lot of Dominic Cruz, the way he talks, the way he carries himself. I mean, he's a little bit less of a dick than Dom, but he shades of Cruz at the podium and even with some of the movement. Congrats to Cory Sandhagen. Really good dude. What'd you make of the co-main event? Holly Holm over Yana Santos. Pretty clear unanimous decision, 30-27 times 2, 30-26 from the third judge. And Holly Holm, at 41 years of age, nothing if not dominant. I know she didn't get the finish that she sought, but she looked great, I thought.
Oh, you mean Holly Holm, the grappler? I mean, how about that? That was pretty cool, seeing those takedowns and her ability to really dominate on the ground, was passing the guard with ease. She's clearly showing that she is way more comfortable now in the grappling realm, in her ability to control and mix up ground and pound and mix up her long-range strikes to get on the inside. I thought it was a very smart performance from her. Was she 41 years old? Is that correct? And seeing her go out there and execute like she did there against Yana Santos was a pleasure to watch, man. Not a whole lot of people have that level of longevity, and people forget that she was a multiple-time boxing world champion, and to still be going at it and doing it at that level was awesome. I loved everything about the fight, what she said after the fight. She's impressive, man.
She's only a couple fights over 500 in the UFC, but she had a huge swing fight against Jermaine Durandamy early 2017. And had she won that fight, she would have become the first two-division champion in UFC women's history. She's already going to be the first boxing and UFC Hall of Famer. Henry Cejudo, I don't think is in the. Oh, that'd be wrestling. But I don't think there's any doubt that Holly Holm is going to get a UFC Hall of Fame nod to go with her International Boxing Hall of Fame nod. But yeah, I mean, she really is the ultimate competitor in so many respects. And, I'm a broken record when it comes to an appetite for training and no negative emotional response to training whatsoever. It's just built for this, all about that life, no children. Let's go.
Has she ever looked like she's out of shape? I mean, she looks like not only does she look like she's in shape, she looks like she's in insane shape every single fight. Again, that's dedication. That's consistency.
And she's still right there at 35. I mean, this is not going to get her a title fight, but this is, she's still right there. And I got to say about Yana Kunitskaya Santos, right?
Yes.
How tough, man. Just how much tougher is she than me?
She's down for it,
right?
man.
Yeah. You see Nate the Train Landwehr? Pretty easy guy to root for, I would think, over Austin Lingo there by the rear naked choke. What are your thoughts on the emerging force, Nate the Train?
He's fun, man. He's fun to watch. Every time I see him fight, I just kind of giggle inside and just be like, man, this guy is a beast. He's fun. He's fun to watch. He's got some skills, man, and he is as tough as they come. I think there's going to be some bigger fights out there for him in the future. He continues to entertain, continues to execute very well, racking up those wins. And I can watch Nate the Train fight all the time, man.
Macy Barber over Andrea Lee. Some people had it the other way. It was a split decision win for Macy Barber. There are a lot of people out there in the scoring space. Aaron Bronstetter, Sean Sheehan, very adamant about certain rounds and how this fight was scored. I still have my issues when it comes to effective grappling and how we are supposed to interpret what constitutes effective grappling. Largely, I agree, right, that Macy Barber deserved round one because when Andrea Lee got the takedown, really didn't have duration necessarily, wasn't dominant, no damage was doled out. But I do believe in a broad scope, this fight is another example of damage and effective striking reigning supreme over effective grappling, at least in 2023.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I don't know if it's because we're hanging out all the time. We talk about these fights, but we definitely share similar views on this. And I think you got it right there. I think also there's something to be said about, the faces you make during a fight, your body language. I think those also help a lot to score a fight. And Andrea Lee, even when she was in side control, she had like one arm tied behind her back and some kind of funky move that Maycee Barber was trying to hit. She never even looked comfortable, even when she was in these, what are known as dominant positions from side control, but she wasn't doing anything with it. And I think that's what was hurting her in this one. Maycee Barber was just a little bit more active. Just her body language seemed a little bit more confident out there. Unfortunately, I didn't watch it for a second time to really score it with a keen eye. But I don't have a problem with Barber at all winning that fight. But I do agree with you in regards to what effective grappling is. What are we talking about? Are we talking about your ability to control? Are we talking about your ability to attack with multiple submissions? Right. Are we talking about my ability to control you from position and use ground and pound? So I think a judge, and I think rightfully so, should defer to the kind of damage that you can create on the ground. Whether it's on the ground, on your back, or on top, I think that's going to play a major factor. Because if you're just sitting there holding someone down, that's not going to win the fight. You're not doing anything to that person to take away their will from winning that fight or damaging them in any way, mentally, physically, or spiritually. You have to land damaging stuff from there. So combining the ability to, let's say, pass guard and smash the guard with punches and elbows, I think is huge for people right now in today's UFC.
I think our production assistant, Will Berger, should cut up those last 90 seconds analytically out of you. Did you microdose on mushrooms before the program today? What do we?
I did not, unfortunately.
This guy is on fire today. This guy is absolutely on fire. And I did want to ask you, we have Ray Longo, but we don't pay you enough, by the way, to go back and watch Maycee Barber, Andrea Lee twice. I thought it was a great fight. I really admire both women, and I really think they're both tough. And I love Maycee Barber at the post-fight presser, and I thought Andrea Lee fought valiantly in her home state. But we don't pay you enough money. I mean, you got enough going on in your life. You don't go back and watch that fight twice. All right, let's get to the Ray Longo minute.
It's now time for the Ray Longo minute.
I want you to punch a hole in his fucking chest. That's what I want.
The Ray Longo minute. Starring Ray Longo. The John Anik and Kenny Florian podcast.
Hey,
Kenny, do what I do. Just wing it. What are you going back and looking at fights for?
Look at you.
I'm a nerd. I got nothing better to do. Ray, what's up? You look a little sweaty there.
Oh, I'm freaking, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm hanging in there. What's up, guys? We're back in the shitter again with these guys. What the hell happened this weekend?
I was talking about you today, Ray. Ray, you're still holding pads. How old are you? And are you still holding pads for all, like, what weight are you like? You know what? I'm not holding pads for you.
Weight-wise, no. Above 155, not good anymore. So I'm gonna be 65. Aljo's back in town. I'll give him a couple of rounds. Not what I used to be though. I'll tell you one thing: if I get my hip fixed, I'm better than I was 10 years ago. Because mentally, I feel great. It's just that I can't do the movement I want. But I'm still taking a beat. And
you're a savage. I was holding pads for a dude, 138 pounds. Shout out to Ben Cash, 138 pounder. And dude, my whole body is sore as hell. My elbows are killing me. My legs, my back. I didn't really grapple or do anything. It's just I'm sore as hell. So I can't. You're a beast.
I tell you, you know what's funny? Like there's a couple of fighters that they'll guys do a couple of privates, make some side cash. Yeah. They hold one time. They go, I'm not doing it again. I'm like, one time? No, every day. I literally hold every day. No, it's. I think I'm just used to. My shoulders do hurt a little bit, but I don't know. It is what it is. What are you going to do, John? You got to keep running water, never goes stale, baby. We just got to keep on moving.
Well, you look like you're in a caloric deficit today. That's for sure.
Really?
So what do we need to do? What do we need to do to fix this hip?
No, I need a
hip replacement.
I had the PRP shot about 2 months ago. Nothing really. I don't know. I had a hip replacement.
A hip replacement.
Yeah.
And all right, well, Anik and Florian podcast certainly happy to sponsor any sort of hip replacement if we need to get that done. But no, I mean anything you can do to continue your career as a media mogul when you don't have to hit pads.
Oh, let me tell you. Yeah. Oh yeah, well that's the other. I don't even know what I'm doing anymore.
So it seemed like you were going to lead the dance with some issues with the judges instead of talking about Cory Sandhagen versus Merab Dvalishvili.
Oh, man. Well, there's a lot to talk about. But first of all, the judge that scored that fight for Chito Vera, I mean, it just doesn't get any I mean, how do you, like, again, how do you look at that fight and think that guy won the fight is insane to me. And I'll tell you, the guy thinks he's going by the judging criteria, then change the fucking criteria because I don't know what to say. That guy, Sandhagen, put on a beautiful, masterful performance. And to have to stand in the center of that octagon and the first card they read is that the other guy won is got to be so disturbing that I'm just glad, he's a grounded, nice kid, man, because what a great performance. And, man, if you're listening, I had that like Salamato. I had a 50-45. If I wanted to be lenient, maybe 49-46, but I was kind of scoring the fight when, with Aljo, like on the phone, I go, dude, this is a shutout. Like, I don't know. I think Aljo wanted to give him one round after the first three, maybe. I forget. I have to go back and look. But I'm like, he's not doing anything. It's like the guy we were talking about in the gym. And the one theory is that the guy did so little in the first two rounds that the first time he did anything, he lands a 1-2. Right. Everybody's going crazy. Oh, yes. Jesus, look at it. What in the hell? I mean, how do you think that guy won the fight? And I'm not gonna go on another rant because I've been doing this for like 10 years. I'm getting sick of myself. But I think you got to start looking at the commissions now, because if you look at the commissions and who's judging for these commissions, I think you're gonna find something that will help you, maybe get to the bottom of the problem, because it's not even the judges now that have to be held accountable. It's the commissions that put these guys in there. And there's a lot, I'm not saying nepotism, but a lot of friendship stuff, which I get, man. I would do the same thing, I guess. But it's not going to the proper guy. It's going to the guy who they like, who they have a relationship with. I think you look into the commissions and who they're using all the time, you'll come up with a lot of good stuff.
I said to Kenny off the air before the show, I shouldn't even take this on the air, but I said, maybe I need to find a new sport. At times, I feel like with my issues with the criteria and how after these shows, it doesn't even become about the martial arts. It becomes about scoring and judging and criteria and misinterpretation and open to interpretation. And I agree with you. For Cory Sandhagen to even have to stand there and deal with that. Like if I'm Bruce Buffer, if I've been watching the fight and not fucking hobnobbing with everybody, if I've actually watched the fight, I probably take the liberty, even if I'm not supposed to do it, and read the 50-45 Sandhagen first, or the 49-46 Sandhagen first, just so he can understand that one person actually understood what the fuck they watched, Corey.
Yeah, and if I'm Bruce Buffer, you know what I do? I read the 48-47 for Sandhagen. I just go right above the guy. And who's going to say anything? That idiot's going to come out and say, I didn't score a fight like that. He's getting crucified. That's what I do.
What I got out of all of this is that Anik thinks that Bruce Buffer hobnobs during the fight. That's what I got out of
Brucey, listen, Kenny, Brucey's the best.
He is the best.
I'll never forget that time.
There's no one like him. There's no one like him.
We were in Australia. When we were hanging out at the airport, he goes flying by us, like flying, and Kenny goes, Bruce loves Bruce.
Hey,
I did.
I'm just going to say.
No, he's a great guy, though. But he's look, I'm with you, John. I'm going to tell you something, John. I'm with you. It's when you get to the point where the sport that you absolutely love starts to make you question certain things and go, wow, it's like a lot of things. I just don't know why people aren't jumping on the bandwagon and doing something about it. I think that's where I get frustrated. I mean, there's just so many known characters that just shouldn't be around that nobody cares, I guess. I don't know, but that was pretty bad.
So Aljamain Sterling was standing next to Merab Dvalishvili, and you could read Aljo's lips just saying, that's perfect, right? The way all of this played out. because Merab needs a dance partner at least right now. Even if Henry Cejudo beats your guy in 7-8 weeks, Cejudo's not going to turn around and fight Merab at 12 weeks thereafter, right?
Right.
Cory Sandhagen, Merab Dvalishvili as a main event just makes a ton of sense as a true title eliminator. And based upon what we saw this weekend, what's your appetite for cornering against Cory Sandhagen again?
Well, first off, if you notice, those guys just came from an audition for the Mod Squad. They're doing a Mod Squad 3. I don't know what I was even looking at, but I thought it was hilarious. Man, great fight. And I always had Cory pegged as the guy like 4 or 5 years ago. Like, this guy you got to watch out for. So much respect for Sandhagen. Love his attitude. Love his look on his outlook on things. I thought the call out was appropriate, nice, and it'll be a great fight, man. That's all I could say. It'll be a great fight. Merab, you could see how to talk about being amped up. I mean, he's just happy somebody mentioned his name. I mean, it was great. I mean, that is.
He's the only guy that's ever mentioned his name. I mean, it's just no one who calls
like organic and sincere. He was like, "Holy shit, man! You got to be. Let's go. I think he would have did it like you're talking about tomorrow. We jump in there, But what a great fight that would be. What I love about that fight is, he spars Aljo all the time. If anybody has similar movement and attributes like Sandhagen has, it's Aljo. So it's not something he's going to be unused to. I thought the Jan fight was going to be tougher because he's such a Terminator coming forward and he hits hard. I think Cory did what he had to do. I really thought he just fought beautifully. I can't say enough about that, but I don't know if he'll be able to hurt Merab, and I think that's going to be the difference in the fight. He kind of pity-pats for his style. Still great. He still can land some big shots, but, Merab, you got to really get him out of there. And, man, what an exciting fight.
I just love that Merab Dvalishvili is the name on the tip of somebody's tongue, and he's done it all organically, all the right way. And I'm not going to go down the road of his 0-2 UFC start again, right? But you can be sure after he beats Petr Yan, Dennis Bazooka and some of his other teammates are like, yeah, I mean, I'm not going to get into it, but you should be fucking 11-0 in the UFC. And he probably should have his flowers and might even have a belt by now if his teammate wasn't the champion. So, yes, hungry doesn't even begin to describe it. He's a credit to his nation, to the sport, to your gym. And it's just great to see him start to get his flowers.
And John, as we move on, I mean, I'm just so happy.
Longo blackout.
Oh, so that was about. I'm so happy the way they're handling their friendship. I really am. I think it just, speaks volumes. And I think as time goes on, people will really appreciate what they did and how they held their ground. And they're both going to do great. They're going to get what they want. They're already, I think what people don't realize, if it ended tomorrow, they're both really happy, satisfied, grateful. And that's a great position to be in, because then you can't be bought. You know what I mean? It's not like you're coming up and blah, blah, blah. These guys are really just in a great spot. They're having a great time. And, now Merab's confidence is, I thought it was crazy before this. After the Jan fight, you could see he's got a little different swagger. He's got the sunglasses on. Again, he came from humble beginnings, from nothing. He's at the big show. He's enjoying himself. This is the American dream. This is awesome.
Oh, yeah. They both are going to have financial freedom, and hopefully they take care of their chief corner, Ray Longo.
Without those guys, I've got no complaints with either of them. They do. Oh,
it sounds like some other guys don't pay you though, huh? That's fucked up.
Everybody does the right thing. I got great. Look, I've been blessed with really, really great guys. Starting with Sarah. Not a complaint out of me in the world. I'm just in the spot there, and I'm grateful for everything I have. And if it stopped tomorrow, I'm fine, and it's all good. So.
Justin, the kid Montalvo pays on time. That's for goddamn sure.
Oh, the kid. Big fight.
All these guys.
Big fight this weekend.
What about the Quiet Man? About the Quiet Man?
So we have Anthony DeLemme, the Quiet Man, and the kid all fighting this weekend. 2 on the same night. And two Friday, 1 Saturday. I'll be in California. Obviously, I wish I could be everywhere at the same time, but that's not happening. So, we got some big fights, man. What was that?
Who's fighting in California?
Which fight?
Is that you're going to the Bellator fight in California?
Yeah, it's Justin Montalvo against, I think, Archie Colgan. I think his first name is. Really tough fight, man. It's going to be a great fight.
All right.
Who else what other disasters were there?
Well, there was a disaster at Fury FC the night preceding this event. Kenny, do you know what we're talking about?
No.
Oh,
There
man,
was the referee.
Kenny.
Go ahead, Ray, please.
No, scary, Kenny. The guy, I think, was put to sleep in a triangle.
I did see that.
Yeah,
and then he got the arm lock after. He's like breaking the dude's. I did see that. Okay,
Kenny, can you imagine being unconscious,
dude,
and having a guy snapping your arm? Like,
he literally woke up and someone's just like breaking his arm. I mean, that was bad.
Hard to watch. Really hard to watch.
Bad.
And then they put that guy as a judge the next night.
Yeah,
salute
it's insane.
Salute to the Texas Commission.
Jeez.
So there was another fight that we didn't get to, but Kenny and I were talking about it before we hopped on the air. Albert Duraev over Chito Njokuani by split, and close fight, but Kenny and I both had it for Chito Njokuani. Ken Flo, you thought that Chito, based upon our interpretation, did enough to win?
Absolutely. I thought it was clear. I thought it was clear for Njokuani. I don't know. I mean, it's very confusing. It's very confusing. If you're a coach, if you're a commentator, if you're a fighter. I mean, if I was a fighter right now and I fought that night and I saw that, that Duraev won, I would be shaking in my boots. And what the hell do I got to do? I got to kill this guy in front of me to show that I won. I mean, it was a little disturbing. I'll be honest with you. Again, fights can be close, but they can also be clear. And I thought this was a clear win for Njokuani. And I don't know. I feel bad for Chito, who is going to have that L by his name for the rest of his life. And you know what? In 6 months, a year, everyone forgets about what happens during the fight, or further. It's going to be an L. And that affects not only his pay that night, but it affects the fights that he could potentially get in the future. So it just has that snowball effect, and I feel really bad. I thought it was pretty clear for Njokuani, man.
Yeah, I mean, I watched literally as a fan. I'm not even going to say I watched the whole fight. It didn't jump at me like that, but I can't really. I don't know what I'm thinking about that. I think after the Chito thing, I think that judge saved everybody from going back. That was so bad that, like even the Andrea Lee Barber fight was close. But
right. I believe Dan Murgliata was judging that fight.
Yeah. And is that normal to judge and then jump in as a ref? I mean,
well, it's funny. I mean, I actually think, I get told all the time by John McCarthy and others that there are only 8 or so elite judges in the world. These refs have a pretty keen eye. I'm not suggestive that he should be the guy, but I think you can do worse. You can do a lot worse than having Jason Herzog turn around and sit in that chair. That's
yeah. Well, I'd like to see that.
I would too.
I would love to see that.
Hey, I wanted to ask you about Leon Edwards. Can I ask you about Leon Edwards?
Yeah,
because
sure.
Forrest Griffin was on the show last week and was sort of intimating that he doesn't like that a champion gets to call their shot. And he wasn't referring to Leon specifically, but we've had a lot of champions try to call their shot. And Israel Adesanya is the best in the world because he perpetually asks for the guy who is the consensus toughest fight and the number one contender. That isn't always the case. Now, Leon Edwards doesn't care about Colby Covington's wrestling. That's not why he doesn't want to fight him. He doesn't want to fight him because he hasn't competed and he doesn't believe that Colby in a meritocracy has earned a championship opportunity. Where do you stand on all of that? I know Aljamain Sterling has been intermixed in some of that at times. Where do you stand in terms of how much a champion should be able to call their shot in terms of who is the number one contender?
I mean, oh man, that's tricky because who is the number one contender? That's where it gets crazy. Like do you have faith in who the number one contender is? Like, does Colby deserve that shot? Do we all think Colby deserves that shot? So I don't even know if it's so much Leon calling his own shots as much as it is Leon saying, I don't call the shots, but that guy definitely doesn't deserve the fight. You know what I'm saying? And, I don't know. I mean.
Well, Dana White came out and said it's going to be Colby, right? That he had that altercation with Masvidal and he served as the backup. And Dana White's going to control who gets the championship opportunity.
Yeah, exactly.
Edwards has come out and said that he's not going to sign a contract to fight Colby. So something's got to give. And usually in that tug of war, Ken Flo smirking because he knows promoter usually wins.
I'm going to go out on a limb and say it's not going to be Colby. How's that?
Wow.
Really? Yeah. I say the guy holds his ground, or they really make it worth his while to fight. And I think that's probably, you got to remember, there's a lot of posturing in this business, John. So he comes out and says, I'm not going to fight this guy. Next thing you know, it's, I'll give you another 500 grand.
Yeah.
Oh,
right.
We're out again. Yeah, I think we blocked that again. But you know what I'm saying? So I think you got to realize everybody's juggling for more money. And just like, Colby's got a... Wait, first, let me address one thing with you and Colby, too. If I hear one more person say it's just an act, stop with it. I don't give a fuck if it's an act. Like, again, you do have young kids, right? And an 11-year-old and a 12-year-old, they don't have the defense mechanisms to determine if it's an act or not. So you can have your fucking act, but leave the fucking kids out of it. You're a fucking complete idiot. And just... For people saying it's an act, and you don't give a shit. We know the guy's a joke. He ain't showing up yet. But for your kids to even be remotely affected by that, John. And when my kids were young, I was really overprotective. That's a goddamn shame. And I don't care if it's an act or not. Get your act together and change it then. But just going off on a different thing. And for that alone, he doesn't get the title shot. How's that?
Well, thank you. Yeah, I mean, it's sort of weird for me to be sort of thrust into the middle of all the promotion, right? And there's two sides of it. I mean, certainly, I don't really feel like there's any sort of legitimate threat there. But yes, my 11-year-old daughter obviously is going to come across that soundbite either on Snapchat or somewhere else, and I'm going to have a conversation. So, no, I think even Colby would admit to me privately that he crossed the line. But no, I appreciate your support and the support from the collective. And
no, because I hear, well, it's an act. I tell you, the kids don't know it's an act. Like I don't imagine somebody tells your daughter, there's a guy, you're going to be fatherless. How's that going over?
Right. No,
I think my kids are in their 20s. If somebody told them that, they'd be having an anxiety attack. You know what I mean? Like that's what you want to do to a kid. All right, tough guy. Good job. Really good call on that one.
Well, thank you, man.
Anytime.
And Ray blacked out.
Kenny, how's your audio? I'm hearing that echo. Now I'm hearing myself.
Oh, no. Can you hear me or no?
Yes. You sound good. When I start hearing that, our producer's having an anxiety attack.
Yeah, I keep getting Skype notifications for some reason. I don't know why.
Yeah, we're on StreamYard and not on Skype. Is there any way for you to close
I know, which is weird.
Well, hey, I appreciate the support. Can we get him out of here, Cody? Because this is absolutely killing me.
Oh, man. We got to leave on a bad note?
No, try to come back in.
All right. No. I'll let you guys go. It's almost like you feel like guys are trying to get rid of you, and you go, no, I'll come back. Definitely not. I'm leaving. All right, guys. Look, man, it's been great. I hope the judging gets squared away some in the next decade, and that's it. I got nothing else to say. Hats off to Cory Sandhagen. Look forward to the fight with Marab, and great call out, honorable call out, and. Man, 5-0, beautiful performance. I hope that judge doesn't affect your day one bit.
Hey, best of luck this week.
Hasta la vista, guys. Thanks.
All right, there he is. And just like that, all the audio issues go away. Am I wrong?
It sounds perfect now.
Yeah. All right. So I appreciate Ray's support. And again, from the fan base on the Colby Covington thing. Now, when I first saw it, and I didn't plan to address it, but Ray brought it up, so I'm just going to address it really quickly. So I didn't really think much of it when I first saw the clip, right? Because I just see it as Colby Covington in character. He and I have always been on good terms. All I did, as far as I was concerned, was give Belal Muhammad a platform on the Anik and Florian Podcast YouTube channel to state his case, because I do believe in a meritocracy that Belal Muhammad is the number one contender, deserves the championship opportunity, and that's it, right? But obviously my phone started blowing up last Tuesday, something that I had never experienced before, and so I understood maybe the gravity of this perceived threat. Now, Colby and I have since connected privately. Obviously, for my kids, that's a discussion that'll be had at a later point in time. But basically, I have to look at it in two different ways, Kenny. First, I have to see if I've said or done something that upset the athlete, right? Separate that from whatever venom is coming his way that might be unkind to my wife or children or my kids growing up without a dad, right? So first I have to determine if I've said something either analytically on the post show or on the pay-per-view that has set him off. And when I determine that that wasn't the case, then I can move on and deal with the second part of it. And, I understand that Ray and a lot of people are upset that the act could cross a line like this, but I don't know, man. I'm just so conditioned, I guess, to the noise in the fight game that while I appreciate the support, I guess I just didn't feel particularly threatened. If Jorge Masvidal had come at me, I would have been worried.
Well, dude, I mean, you always handle yourself like a true professional, man. That's why you're one of the best in the business in any sport. But yeah, it's unfortunate though, right? Because hey, let's say he is playing a character. Keep it about you. Don't keep it about anybody else. When you get family involved, or when you have a family member that might see that, they don't know what's going on. And Colby does play this certain persona. But I think it's important to understand when you do cross that line as a character, as an athlete, as a fighter. And, hopefully he has reached out and you guys have squashed that. And
if you reveal Ken Flo's hometown, there's hell to pay. I'm just saying, right? It's like, you just be careful, folks out there. All right. So, and Cody Merrow, our executive producer, if you can clean whatever that up was with Longo, you'll be my hero forever. All right. Big things coming up for the PFL this weekend. You were off to Las Vegas. It looks like maybe the Virgin. Is that right? The Virgin?
That's right. That's right. You guys were there just a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So this Saturday, Brendan Loughnane, Marlon Vera, regular season opener. They're calling it PFL 1 as the PFL featherweight champion Brendan Loughnane gets back to work. Let us get to Brendan Loughnane. Well, this is very exciting. It's very rare for us to get a guy during fight week, and especially a guy like this, a champion, a fighter on this level. This Saturday, of course, Brendan Loughnane, Marlon Vera, regular season opener for the PFL, live in Las Vegas. And we are now joined, of course, by Brendan Loughnane. It's good to see you, brother. How you doing?
Hey, thanks for having me. It's about time, fellas.
It is about time. And, we go way back. I was doing my research today and just have huge respect for your overall body of work, which we're going to get into. But Ken Flo and I were there December 15th, 2012, Gold Coast, Australia. Yeah. You Mike Wilkinson at the Ultimate Fighter Smashes finale. And obviously, that I've been following your career from afar ever since. And just congratulations, man, on everything. It's really cool to see you sort of, in a lot of respects, realize the dream, become a world champion, and get all the fruits that come with it, brother.
I'm glad you brought that up because I was hoping you guys didn't forget that you actually did commentate together on my first UFC fight. So yeah, when I say guys have been there from the start, you guys have literally watched it from the start, from there all the way through this crazy PFL journey, all the way to getting the belt, and then now defending the belt. So I'm a the champion. I don't know what I am right now, but I don't know. I heard that I lost it the day that I won it. I don't know how all this works, but I'm back here again. I'm in Las Vegas and we're ready to go again.
Well, it keeps you hungry, man. Yeah.
Yeah, no one's taking the money out of your bank account and nobody's taking the belt away. It was a huge 2022 for you. Many people, you were the fighter of the year. You compete in June, August, and November. Go into a fourth round against Bubba Jenkins before knocking him out. I guess I'm just curious how the body's holding up after the successive back-to-back-to-back training camps and ensuing fights last year.
Funnily enough, all right, better than it's ever been. I don't know. Maybe I was made for tournaments because, I was very, very, very banged up last year. In every one of them fights, every single one I had a different injury. And it is a marathon, not a sprint. It's really, really difficult to get through that season. I feel like I've approached it a bit different this year. I feel like I've approached it as a marathon. And I'm a veteran now. I really am. And it's my third season in a row. I know how to do the quick successive fights now. You got to take your 7 days off after. Then you start easing back in. You've got to keep your weight low all year. There's a few different things that come into factor here. You've got to try and take as least damage as possible in each fight because this is its own entity. This isn't the UFC or Bellator or, have a fight. Maybe you pick up an injury, have surgery. Then your next fight, you miss one date, it's over. So I'm fighting conservative now. I'm on the jab. And Then when you see the final come along, I'm ready to go. Like, let's fight now because I know I've got a break after this. So it really is its own entity.
Brendan, I want to talk about you winning the $1 million, man. Has that changed any of the way that you train? Has it changed your life in any big way?
Yeah, I mean, I did ask myself this question, Kenny. I thought, the silk sheets are out now. I'm like, am I still going to be able to train to that level? So I got myself to Thailand. I was amongst Peter Yan, Faziev, all these guys that I've trained with for 10 years and still competing, still beating personal bests, still getting the 8 to 9 hours sleep, the nutrition, the weight's still the same as what it was. I just feel like, yeah, my story's not written yet. Like, the money's in the bank now, the belt's on the side, but Marlon, all these other guys that I want to secure my legacy. So when it's over, it's really over. And I'm like, I beat this guy, that guy, that guy. And if you look at the run that I've been on, beating Shaman, Tyler Diamond, Chris Wade, Bubba Jenkins, and to add Marlon to that, it's going to be a great little streak that I'm on.
I want to talk about Marlon because he's one of the most dangerous fighters in the world in round one, right? I mean, round one, he comes at you. How do you approach someone like that, mentally and technically for this one?
Experience, Kenny. It's just going to take a lot of experience. I mean, if you were green, I know Marlon will blast you straight out of there because he's like a bat out of hell. I call him the best 3-minute fighter on planet Earth because he just goes absolutely wild for 3 minutes and then just slows right down. It's like he almost doesn't know how to pace himself. And it's like, even at this late stage in his career, he's still doing it. It's like, even though his chin has deteriorated, he's still doing it. So it's like, this guy's just got one gear and it's straightforward. I'm going to try and kill you. If I don't, then I'm probably going to die myself. And that's that's pretty much how he fights.
Yeah. Brendan Loughnane with us here on the Anik and Florian podcast. So you're 26-4. I went through your whole body of work this morning. You've never been finished. So the next man to finish you is going to be the first to do so in professional mixed martial arts. What is it that has led to that durability? I mean, I would imagine physical and mental toughness is a part of it, but that's a pretty unprecedented statistic.
Yeah, growing up in Manchester, I think. Yeah, growing up in England and Manchester, we're built different around there. Yeah. But no, I couldn't tell you, John. I mean, I never even been dropped in a fight until last season when I fought Kudo. I got hit with a left hook and I was like, oh shit, I just had my first, just hit the deck, like, whoa. So they're getting closer, but not yet. So yeah, we'll see if Marlon can do it.
So your last 3 losses have all been by split decision, right? 2021, 2017, 2015, right? I mean, you could be looking at 29-1, and I hear you talk about your legacy, and it makes me think about this. Of those 3 fights, whether it was Pat Healy or Duquesne, which of those 3 fights did you unequivocally deserve to win? It seemed like a lot of people were upset about the Duquesne fight.
I mean, I know you've probably not seen him, but Pat Healy, I beat very decisively 2 rounds. Yeah. Tom Duquesne was a whitewash on all 3 rounds. Movlid Habalayev, he beat me. Like, there's no complaints there. He took me down. He controlled the fight. It was still close, but he beat me. I'll put my hands up in the air when I lose, but I did not lose them 2 fights. I really didn't. The fact that I have to tell people that I did and it's on my record, it hurts me to this day. But we can't cry about it. The bank's full now. The belt's there. Let's keep going. Let's go.
Well, and that's why I think, and you probably sort of sense the happiness of fans like me when you broke through and won the belt, right? Because the money is nice, right? But it's about your legacy, right? Because a lot of us thought that it was going to be in the UFC, and obviously you're on the precipice. And I would imagine that you can, even though your legacy is incomplete, sort of as you put it, can take a lot of solace in the fact that, Ken Flo, I mean, look at this fucking guy. He can't say he was a mixed martial arts world champion at the highest level, right? He fought for the UFC belt 3 times, right? But I think he'd love to be able to look to his right and see a gold belt. Can't you take solace in the fact that for everything that you went through, those split decision losses, the Dana White Contender Series stuff, the UFC stuff, when you didn't get as long a leash as you should have gotten after the Wilkinson fight in 2012, look at you now. Not unlike Leon Edwards. Fucking look at you now.
I know. Thank you, John. Wow, you couldn't have put it any better. And you really, really have done your research. And I'm glad to finally come on a podcast where someone has done the research and actually knows what they're talking about. So, yeah, no, listen, that's why I cried my eyes out, because I was like, oh, my God, I actually did it. Like, there was days and there was hours, like, especially when Pat Healy, Tom Duquesne, then Bill Algeo, then getting told no. Like, worked my whole life to get to the UFC. That's what I wanted, and I got turned away. And then PFL opened the door with both arms and said, "Look, kid, come over here." And now I'm 10-1 with the PFL, 9-1, whatever I am. Like, ran with it. Only losses to Movlead. And even when I lost to Movlead, I'm like, can I do this tournament again physically? Then I'm picking up these debilitating injuries like torn MCL, first fight, grade 2. Like, can I do it? Then broke my toe like John Jones is facing this way for Bubba. Like, all this shit. And I'm like, keep going, keep going, keep going. So the second that it actually happened and I won and Bubba was down and the ref stopped it, that was a feeling that I would never, ever, ever, ever be able to put into words.
Do you go buy something? I know you've probably been asked that a million times, but like Ken Flo probably go buy a car. You go buy anything when you win $1 million?
You know what? It's funny. You're going to like this one. So I went apartment shopping in Dubai, yeah, because that's where I'm a resident at the minute. And then I walked in this one and it had like the craziest view. And I sat in the bed and I was like, okay. And I said to the stage, I was like, do you take card? And they're like, what? I was like, yeah, I'll take it.
Amazing.
So, that's awesome, man.
Yeah, I'd say that was the big purchase. So yeah, I'm really happy. I can't wait to get back to it.
Oh, I bet.
You got to send me some pictures. I got to see these pictures, Brendan, when I'm out in Vegas. I got to see this. Yeah,
we got a couple more minutes here with Brendan Loughnane. You can see him fight live this Saturday against Marlon Vera from Las Vegas, Nevada. So for those not acutely familiar with the format, as you look at the next 3-4 months, what is the expectation if you beat Marlon and you get through that fight healthily enough? Are you turning around in 8 to 9 weeks? Is that the expectation?
Yeah, June 8th is the second fight. That's already been released, so we can talk about that one. That's in Atlanta. So that's 9.5, I believe. So yeah, they're giving us a bit of time this time. 9.5, like a full camp again. Yeah. So I mean, yeah, 9.5. It really is a gift in the PFL, which is insane to say, right? Like 9.5 weeks is like a gift. I mean, I don't know why I'm doing this shit again. I really don't.
Well, hey, man.
I don't know why I'm spinning the dice in this thing again because it is the wildest ride in the world. But, what's the hardest thing I could physically do? Like, I was sat there this year, like, oh, okay, well, I'm done with the tournament now. Let's just chill out. Then PFL, get on the phone. It's coming around again. And I'm like, fuck, do I really want to do this again? And then now it's here. I'm super excited. I'm glad they've given me Marlon. Bit of legacy, bit of name value for me. But the matchup I'm looking for, everybody knows I'm a different Brendan now, and I want to fight Movlead. I want to fight him over 5 rounds for the 2023 belt. That's what I want.
Yeah, I think that's a fight that people want to see again. All right, before we let you go, just in terms of competing in the U.S. or abroad versus competing in England, do you care, right? I know I talked to a lot of Aussies, and you may be surprised to hear, they want to come fight in Las Vegas, and even Australian fight fans at times, they want to see American superstars as much as they want to see Jack Della Maddalena. So where do you stand in terms of PFL Europe and your ability to sort of extend your wings in terms of where you're competing over the next couple of years?
Yeah, that's a good question. So out of my 11 or 10 UFC PFL fights, it's I had 1 in London and the rest have all been in the States. But Kenny will vouch for me. How good was London, Kenny? Come on.
It was unreal, man. That was electric that night, man.
Like,
it was electric. They fought you and those guys that night.
It was honestly, John, it was amazing. So I would love if they went back there this year. I don't know the schedule. I know the next one's Atlanta. But can you imagine Brendan Loughnane, Movlead Habalayev, Manchester Arena, 2023 for the belt, 10,000, 15,000, whatever it is. We guarantee we sell it out. Now we're talking. So I'm just throwing it out there for Pete Murray and all the guys behind the scenes. You know where the final should be, lads.
Well, and Ken Flo, I think, gets a couple tickets in his contract. So depending on my schedule, I might be wheels up to Manchester.
I got you.
Brendan Loughnane, Marlon Vera under the lights this Saturday in Las Vegas. Hey, man, congratulations on realizing all this success. You got big fans here, and we'll be watching on Saturday night, man. Enjoy it.
Thanks for having me, fellas. I'll see you, Kenny.
Good luck, brother.
Take care, guys.
All right, there he is, the PFL featherweight champion, Brendan Loughnane, right back in the tournament. Sort of a tricky thing, right? They crown you, and then they take you off the throne and throw you back in the tournament.
Yeah. Go do it again. Do that again. It's tough, man.
So when do you fly out to Las Vegas?
Thursday.
All right.
Yeah.
And where can people watch that fight?
That's going to be on ESPN, man. That'll be on ESPN. Yep.
Well, if you want to see Brendan Loughnane and Kenny Florian of Anik and Florian podcast fame, you can see it live on ESPN this Saturday, April 1st. Don't forget AnikFlorianPodcast.com if you want to learn more about the program or buy some merchandise. Our One More Sleep designs for Miami and UFC 287 are out. Hopefully you like the Miami Vice theme. Jason Anik, my twin brother, was the inspiration there. Those are up at millions.co. Kenny Florian, martialarts.com for your jiu-jitsu needs. And if you want to fucking develop a base, create some fucking space, we've come full circle on this 399th edition of the Anik and Florian podcast. Don't forget, remember the show with Bilal Muhammad and Jason Anik coming up on our Anik and Florian podcast YouTube channel on Thursday. You can also catch that exclusive interview we did with Bilal last week. That is still up for your viewing pleasure. And we'll be back later in the week with our 400th episode, perhaps even featuring Michael Bisping. Thanks to our executive producer, Cody Merrow. Thanks to Ray Longo, Brendan Loughnane, and everybody behind the scenes at DraftKings as well. For Ken Flo, I'm John Anik. Thank you all for watching. Talk to you in a few days. Until then, yo, fucking later.